Hello and welcome to Exponentials 1.4. Today we're going to continue what we left off with in 1.2 and 1.3 where we solve for b, but this time we're going to solve for a as well. And when we get a and when we get b as well, then we're able to make this brand new equation. Yeah, so you recognize the b from what we did the past two lessons, but now we're going to start working on the a value as well. And once we find that, we put them together, we make our new equation. It's going to go on this line, and we can use it to solve for whatever number they want us to compute. Okay, so the first part of this problem, you're going to see a lot of steps that are very familiar. Yeah, so I'll set up the fraction that I've been doing for many times throughout the past the past two lessons. So this should not come as a surprise. Yeah, this should be pretty much business as usual. So I'll just fly right through this. Okay, and hopefully this will be my b value. A difference of one b value, right? Because if it's a difference of 2 or 3, then yeah, it's going to make my work a little bit harder, but let's see what we get. So bigger x value goes on top, so that would be 0. Smaller x value goes on the bottom, that's -1. 5 is paired up with 0. Yeah, 5 is paired up with 0. And 5 over 2 is paired up with -1. But another way to write 5 over 2 is 2.5, so that's what I'm going to call it. Okay, and when I divide this out, I get a 2. And let's see, my difference is a 1, so therefore I don't have to do anything special to this b value. I can just leave it as is. Yay. Okay, so this should be what we, I guess, understand from the past two lessons. So I can just put 2 to the x power there, and that's my b value. But I don't know my a value. Yeah, so that's part of our new part of today's lesson. We don't know the a value right here. Okay, so how do we find it? Well, we're in luck. This says f of x, and this column is called f of x. This says x, and this column is called x. Yeah, so if we're trying to solve for a, all we have to do is plug in the two numbers that are in these two columns, and the only letter left standing will be a, right? So if this is f of x, we're going to use either one of these two numbers. This is x, and this is my x column, so I'm going to use one of these two numbers in place of that x. So now you just have to make a choice. Do you want to plug in these two numbers or 0 and 5? Yeah, plug in an ugly fraction with a negative value right there, or would you rather plug in 0 and 5? I think the choice is pretty obvious, right? We're going to plug in 0 and 5, so let's do that. Okay, so we're going to replace 5. Let's draw a little line here because this is where it's going to be a totally different part of a problem. So 5 equals, we don't have a, that's what we're trying to solve for, 2 to the x power, which is 0. Okay, and now we have just one letter left, which is our a value. Oops, how come that didn't erase? We have just one letter left, which is our a value, so let's continue solving for a. So 5 equals a times 2 to the 0 power is known as 1. So when I solve for a times 1 is a, so therefore a is 5. Okay, so I can go back to this equation, this line that has the a value there, I can erase the a, and I can put a 5 in that spot. Okay, alright, so we now have our equation. So now we're going to start using this equation for whatever number they want us to use it for. And in this particular case, they want us to find f of 1. So I'm going to change the color. And we're going to plug in 1 wherever I see an x. So 5 times 2 to the first power. So here's what you don't want to do. You don't want to multiply 5 times 2 first and get 10. Because if you did that, that'd be very, very bad math procedures. Right? Order of operations say exponents first. So 2 to the first power. And then multiplication. So this is basically going to be 5 times, and 2 to the first power is 2, and therefore you just get a grand total answer of 10. And there's your first problem, 10. Yeah, first problem's done. Let's go on to the second problem. Okay, so same exact task that we have to do for this one, except, yeah, they're not being very nice with the numbers we're going to plug in for our empty fraction. Okay, so we're just going to start off like normal though. Right? Business as usual, our blank parentheses for the first fraction, and totally blank on top and bottom for the second one, and it equals to b. And let's hope that we get a difference of 1 scenario. And if we get a difference of 1 scenario, then we're home free. Yeah, nothing that we have to do with this. Okay, so bigger x on the top, that'd be 7. Smaller x on the bottom, that would be 6. And 2097 0.152 pairs up with 7, and 2621.44 pairs up with 6. And when I divide that out using a calculator, which you're allowed to use this quarter, you get 0.8. Okay, and this is a difference of 1, so luckily we can just keep that 0.8 as is. We don't have to change it at all. So on my equation line here, I'll put a 0.8 to the x power. Okay, and we have to solve for this a value. So just like in the previous problem, we're gonna plug in one of these two numbers. Okay, so you gotta remember now, these two numbers, 7 or 6, goes in place of x, and these two numbers right here is gonna go in place of f of x. So for me, I'd rather deal with a smaller x value because that's gonna mean that I'm gonna do 0.8 6 times versus 0.8 7 times. I mean, we have a calculator, so it's not that big of a deal, but yeah, I'd rather just use the smaller power. Okay, so let's find out what our answer is. So plug in 2621.44 equals a times 0.8 to the 6th power. Okay, and luckily for us, like I said, we get to use a calculator, so we don't have to figure out 0.8 to the 6th power by hand. We can use our calculator, and when you do that, yeah, you get, let's see what you get. Okay, sorry I can't show you the calculator that I'm using to get these values, but I use an online calculator called Desmos, D-E-S-M-O-S. So let me write it on top here. So use that calculator if you don't have one available to you. It's an online calculator. It's really good. So just choose, when you get to that website, just choose the scientific calculator. Okay, so 0.8 to the 6th power is going to be 0.262144. Okay, so how do you think we solve for a? Yeah, how do we get this a by itself? Well, hopefully you say, well, I think I have to divide by it. And if you divide by 0.262144 on both sides, shouldn't your a be by itself, right? And if you don't believe me, I'll just show you what I mean when I say that. So we're going to divide by 0.262144 on both sides. 0.262144 on both sides. Yeah, so when I do that, the right side, this is going to cancel out, so we're going to get a equals. And then when I divide this side, we're going to get 10,000. Okay, so on my equation line here, I'm going to erase the a, and I'm going to fill it in with a 10,000 instead. Oops. There you go. Okay, so now we have to use this equation to figure out f of 12. Okay, so I might need a little bit more space. I'm going to expand the page. Okay, so we're going to plug in 12 into our equation right up here. So it's going to be f of 12 equals 10,000, and then times 0.8 to the 12th power. Okay, so the good thing about using calculators, especially the one like on Desmos.com, is you can actually type in this exactly as you see it on the paper here. Yeah, you don't have to do 0.8 to the 12th power first and then times by 10,000. You can just write out the problem exactly like how you see here. Okay, so that's why the calculator on Desmos.com, you probably want to use it because, like I said, it's pretty good. Okay, so when you type it out exactly how you see here, you're going to get a final answer of 687.19476. Okay, so you might be wondering, why am I writing 5 decimals when the instructions up here say round to 4 decimals? Yeah, so it says round 4 decimals, but I wrote 5 because hopefully your science teacher, you remember what they taught you, that if your 5th number, the one that you're going to evaluate to see if this 7 stays a 7 or becomes 8, if it's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, this will stay a 7. If this number is 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, this becomes an 8. So because that's a 6, we're going to turn this 7 into an 8. So your final answer is going to be 687.1948. And there you go. That's number 2. Okay, number 3. So once again, we have the same exact kind of problem. We're going to make our blank fraction, right? So it's going to be deja vu of the previous two problems. Okay, so I'm just giving you guys as many examples as I can so that you guys can see how it works. And hopefully we get a regular b, a difference of 1b. If we do, then we don't have to do any fancy stuff to the number we eventually get right there. Okay, so bigger x value on top, so that would be 3.5. Smaller x value on the bottom, so that'd be 2.5. Okay, so when I find my difference between these two numbers, I get 1. So that's what I'm happy with, right? Okay. Then 32 pairs up with 3.5, and 8 pairs up with 2.5. So when I divide it, I get a 4. And I don't have to do anything fancy to this 4. I can just leave it as is. So I'll put 4 to the x power right here. And then I have my a value that I have to find. Okay. So which pair of numbers would you rather plug in, 2.5 or 3.5? Okay. For me, I'd rather plug in the smaller number, so I'm going to go with 2.5 and 8. So this 8 is going to replace f of x because it's in the f of x column. 2.5 is going to replace the x because 2.5 is in the x column, and that's an x. Okay, so let's do this. So 8 equals a times quantity 4 to the 2.5 power. Okay, so I get a equals, and in my calculator I'm going to punch in 4 to the 2.5 power, and when I do that I get 32. Okay, so how do I solve for a? Well, hopefully you say divide by 32, because if you did, you're very correct. Okay, so I get 32. Okay, so when I divide this out, since I'm dealing with all kind of decimals in this problem already, I might as well leave my answer as a decimal, so 0.25 is going to be my a value. Okay, so let's erase the a value I have here, and let's put 2.5, the number we just found. Okay, so we have just figured out our equation. Okay, is this going to be enough space? I think it might be. Now let's take it on a test drive and let's plug in 7.9. So f of, let me change the color, f of 7.9 equals 0.25 times 4 to the 7.9 power. Yeah, because it says plug in 7.9 right here. So I plugged in 7.9. So when I punch in this entire thing into my calculator, I'm going to get 14,263.10043. Okay, so I plug all that in, and I get this big number. Okay, so once again I have to round, so I'm going to round to the fourth decimal, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is my fourth decimal, this 4. So I look at the fifth decimal, and it tells me keep it a 4, or does the next number say turn it into a 5? So the 3 tells me keep it a 4. So when I write my final answer, it's going to be 14,263.1004. Okay, and number 4 is done. Okay, next one, number 4. Or I'm sorry, did I say 4 is done? I meant 3 is done. Okay, so number 4 next. Okay, so this one you might be looking at and you might be saying, I'm not going to be able to find my B because they only gave me one ordered pair. And normally when I find my B, I need 2 ordered pairs. So what's happening in this problem? This problem is going to be kind of rough. Actually, yes and no. Okay, so they made life a little easier. They actually gave you the B value right there. So whenever they say something about a growth rate or a decay rate being a number, they're talking about the B value. Okay, so 1.04 is my B value, so I can just write that right away. 1.04 is my B value. Okay, so all I have to do is find the A. So they gift wrapped the B value for us. I don't have to make that fraction. I just got to go straight into finding the A value. So because they made our life easier in that respect, they're probably going to make our life easier for the other 2 parts of the puzzle. So finding the A, finding this guy might be a little bit harder. Okay, but I'm still going to find the A in the same exact way. I'm going to use a point that they gave me. So this is my X. So I'll put a 3 right here. This is my Y, or you can call that f of X. So I can put that right there. Okay, so I still follow the same steps. So 1,687.296 equals A times 1.04 to the 3rd power. Okay, so when I type that out, when I put 1.04 to the third power, I will get a ugly number, unfortunately. So this stays the same because I'm trying to solve for a. And then my a value is going to be 1.124864. Okay, so when I solve for a, same thing like I did the previous problem. Divide by this ugly number on both sides to get the a by itself. 1.124864. And when I divide that out, I'm going to get a equals 1,500. So actually that came out to a nice number. I'm kind of surprised. But yeah, I guess we're not that mean and give you guys all ugly numbers all the time. Okay, so this is going to be 1,500. Okay, so we found our equation. Okay, so now we have to put this equation that we just found to use and solve when x is 6. So f of 6 means I want to plug in 6, yeah? So I plug it into my equation that we just found in the previous step. So 1,500 times 1.04 to the 6th power. So luckily, like I said, you can punch in this problem exactly how you see it in the calculator. You just put 1,500 parentheses 1.04, then you put the power, close the parentheses, and you hit enter. And when you do that, you get 1,897.97852. So, like I said, I write 5 decimals because the 5th decimal, the 2, tells me what to do with the 5. So the 2 says keep it a 5, or does 2 say make it into a 6? And hopefully you say keep it a 5. So my final answer, 1,897.978. And sorry if that got kind of scrunched up together. Yeah, that's why I changed the color so that you guys can see which number belongs to which. Okay. All right. So next problem, number 5. Okay, so they're continuing with this, give you the b right off the bat, so they're being kind of nice, right? So there's your b value. This is growth rate. B value is 0.9. So I'm going to put a 0.9 to the x power. Okay, and we're going to solve for the a value, and unfortunately, they gave us a really, really ugly ordered pair again. So this is my x, so this 2 is going to go right there. And this is my f of x. Yeah, so 177.147 is going to go right there. So let's solve this. And yeah, see how everything got kind of scrunched. Let me just put this right here. Okay, so 177.147 equals a times 0.9 to the 2nd power. Okay, all right, so 177.147 equals a times 0.81. Okay, so how do I get the a by itself? Well, just get rid of the 0.81. Yeah, and where did 0.81 come from? Well, that's 0.9 squared. So divide both sides by 0.81. And when I do that, I get a equals, an ugly number. So a equals 218.7. So yeah, can't always have a nice a value. This time it was kind of ugly. Okay, but oh well, can I help? 218.7. Okay, so that's my a value. Alrighty, so now let's go on to plugging in -3. So wow, that's not a nice number at all either. Plugging in -3 for x. Good thing we're using a calculator because that would be actually kind of crazy. Yeah. So let's plug in -3. So f of -3 equals 218.7 times 0.9 to the -3 power. Okay, so just plug that in straight into your calculator as is. Okay, if your calculator can't plug in everything at once, then you might have to do 0.9 to the -3 power, then hit enter, then hit times by 218.7. If your calculator cannot do everything at once. Okay, but if you guys are going to use the one online, then you can just get everything in all at once, hit enter, and you get 300. Nice number, yeah, for a change. Okay, last problem. Alright, so once again, they give us the b. It's right here. Yeah, it's a nice number, 3. No promises that the other numbers are going to be nice, but at least this guy's nice. Okay, so we want to find the a again, like usual. So This is my x, so I'm going to put a 4 right there. This is my y, or my f of x. I'm going to put that right there, 567. So let's do this. 567 equals a times 3 to the 4th power. Okay, so 567 equals a times, so 3 to the 4th power, I believe, is 81. Okay, so when I divide both sides by 81, I get a equals, is it a nice number? Yeah, it is. It's a 7. Yay. Ooh, nice number again. Okay, so I put a 7 right there where the a was. Okay. Okay, so now they want us to plug in what number? So it says, ooh, find f of negative, f of 2.3. So that's not that bad. Yeah, I mean, negative 3 I think was worse. Okay, so let's do this. F of 2.3, so that equals 7 times 3 to the 2.3 power. Okay, so punch in all of that all at once, and when you do it, you get 87.5945 1. Okay, so I have 5 decimals. So the 5th decimal, which is a 1, tells me keep this a 5 or make this a 6. What does that 1 tell me to do? And hopefully you all say keep it a 5. And if you did, then good job. So 87.5945. And there you go. Alright, so this is it. I hope you understood everything that I did. I know the calculator part I couldn't show you. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, when I do the screen record on this, then it doesn't really let me switch to the calculator. Yeah, it just lets me record whatever it's on when it starts, which is this software. So I can't switch back and forth. So sorry about that. Okay, but try your best. And if you have troubles using the calculator, then I can show you guys later on this week how it works. Okay, but good luck, and I'll see you guys at the question and answer. Bye-bye.